Good morning, everyone. There appears to have been a very serious accident involving the Space Shuttle Challenger. But shortly after the launch, there was an explosion. We have a tape now, a replay of the launch of the Shuttle Challenger this morning. This was shortly after the launch, which took place shortly after 11:30 Eastern Time. It appeared that all was going well until there was a massive explosion in space. NASA has confirmed that there was an explosion with the capsule, the shuttle itself. Aboard this flight, of course, the first teacher in space, Krista McAuliffe from New Hampshire. Also aboard the flight, pilot Mike Smith, Commander Dick Scobie, Judy Resnick, and there it is. There you see that massive explosion in space, obviously a very serious accident.
For the first time tonight, there's an official indication that the decision to launch may have been at fault in the explosion of the Shuttle Challenger. The Presidential Commission investigating the disaster says it has now looked into how that decision was made and found, quote, the process may have been flawed. Accordingly, Commission Chairman William Rogers has requested that no one associated with that process be involved in NASA's internal investigation.
It was originally seen exclusively as a case of equipment failure, but this week's hearings revealed a failure in human communications as well. NASA, it turns out, knew for years the seals were flawed, and the night before launch, warnings the shuttle could explode were disregarded. Monday, January 27th, a scheduled launch is aborted because of bad weather. The temperature turns cold, so cold that night foot-long icicles begin forming on the pad. Engineers at Morton Thiokol, which manufactures the boosters, call a teleconference and unanimously recommend against launch the next day.
I made the direct statement that if anything happened to this launch, told them I sure wouldn't want to be the person that had to stand in front of a board of inquiry to explain why I launched this outside of the qualification of the solid rocket motor.
Did any of you gentlemen, prior to launch, know about the objections of Thiokol to the launch?
I did not.
Senior NASA officials were never told.
Mr. Reinhardt, are you telling us that you, in fact, are the person who made the decision not to escalate this to a level 2 item?
That's correct, sir.
If this were an airplane, an airliner, and I just had a 2-hour argument with Boeing on whether the wing was going to fall off or not, I think I'd tell the pilot, at least mention it.
I had none of the knowledge of any dissension that was going on within the internal discussion at Thiokol. None of that was available.
The hearings revealed that problems with the O-ring seals should have been well known. As recently as last July, engineers at Thiokol had written warnings to their superiors.
We stand in jeopardy of losing a flight along with all the launch pad facilities.
Now, was any warning or flavor of that very serious letter transmitted to anyone at NASA, to your knowledge?
No, sir, not that letter.
I had never considered the seals as a threat to flight safety because I thought adequate margin was available.
Yet NASA itself, in this report 3 years ago, concluded the seals were weak and could cause loss of mission, vehicle, and crew. The commission also learned that a second contractor had objected to launch. Icing on the pad was so severe that Rockwell, which makes the orbiter, feared damage to the shuttle from debris during ignition. But this is what happened to Rockwell's views as they were passed down the line.
I then called my 2 program managers who were in Florida at 5:45. And they said, we cannot recommend launching from here.
I said that Rockwell could not assure the safety of flight.
My interpretation of the input that was made to me in the mission management team meeting that I described is that a concern was voiced, and it was not an objection to launch.
Does everybody know what everybody else is recommending? Does everybody have the facts? You'll remember that I did say at one point that we thought the decision-making process may be flawed. I believe I'm speaking for the whole commission when I say that we think it is flawed.